All right, so Senator Bernie Sanders, Ryan, is going to be participating in a Fox News town hall tonight. It's going to be watched by millions and millions of people. If there was ever a way to get swing voters or something like that in Michigan or in Washington, some of these other states, it would certainly be there. The biggest network in the country. I think generally my questions for you are: what is the messaging change? Is it possible so rapidly heading into this election in order to try and regain some of that momentum?
Not in a single town hall where Biden is not appearing.
Right.
Just Bernie Sanders by himself. He turned in a terrific performance at that town hall in Bethlehem on Fox News at the start of the campaign. Which really kind of showcased his electability argument. He's the guy who says that he can flip some of these people who either don't show up to vote or who supported Democrats in the past but have gone to Trump since then.
Right.
That's key in states like Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. And what really matters then is winning Michigan, because his entire argument for why he's the most electable candidate is out the window if Biden beats him in Michigan.
Right. And so, that's the real question for him, is whenever it comes to this. I think broadly, this kind of is his last stand. Not last stand, but ahead of Michigan, certainly before the primary, this is his last chance to communicate with large amount of voters ahead of the Tuesday primary. In a way, it's a bit of a disservice that there hasn't been a debate so quickly in between all of these wild swings in the primary. I think if Crystal were here, and something I've hammered home is, I'm like, look, if you want to talk about a revolution, you want to talk about being all this, then you got to start acting like it in terms of the existentialism when it comes to your arguments. But Michael Starr Hopkins, who we're just talking to, a little bit more of an establishment Democrat, says that his net negatives would start to go up. How do you balance something like that?
You do it earlier.
Yeah.
And so when Bernie Sanders became briefly the nominee, the presumptive nominee, everybody was coronating him after Nevada. What his defenders would say when he would be attacked by the pro-Israel super PAC or somebody else, they would say, and somewhat jokingly, they'd say, "How dare you attack the Democratic frontrunner?" Kind of taking on that guise of partisanship to defend Bernie Sanders against attacks. But that's the line. If you're attacking the frontrunner, then you say, "How dare you attack the frontrunner?" Right. And so if Sanders wanted to draw strong contrasts with Biden without driving up his own negatives, he had to do it in October, November, December, January, when it wasn't decided yet who the front runner was. Once someone is kind of in the minds of voters as our guy who's going to go up against Donald Trump, then even if the hits are clean, there's still hits against the guy who's likely to go up against Trump. So I'm not saying the window is completely closed, but if you want to solve the problem that he was talking about, you've got to do it earlier. If you don't do it the whole time, and then you do it when you're trailing, it starts to feel desperate.
I think that's right. I think it's going to be a bit of a difficult situation for him. I think ultimately, a lot of this stuff had to be said from the very beginning. And whenever you put a lot of that off, then it makes it seem, and not desperate necessarily, but these are new things that you want to introduce into the Democratic bloodstream about Burisma. It would just look different now, and it's why having that kind of killer instinct mindset on Biden in particular, and not touching some of the touchy things, it's really coming back to Biden at this point, really.
And there's something interesting about Sanders in that he is, in some ways, the most disciplined politician in the last 50 years.
Yeah.
You can go back and you can look at tape of him from the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s.
Always on message.
And he's always on message. But he has this penchant for going slightly off message in ways that just throws off his entire argument. So, he'll have one clean message about Joe Biden, and then he will say, I don't believe that Joe Biden is corrupt in any way, and I apologize to him.
Yeah, I know. It was outrageous. Really, to call his own surrogate out whenever, correctly, I think, calling Biden corrupt. I thought that was insane.
Or he'll say, what did he say recently? That Joe Biden, sure, he can beat Trump. He could beat Donald Trump. And he does it on the other side too. He will make one or two lines that get him in a lot of trouble. He'll tweet right after Nevada, the Democratic establishment will never be able to stop me.
Right.
Which doesn't gain him much at all. ticks off a huge portion of people.
Of elites,
and isn't really in line with his broader, warmer message. Because whatever you say about his supporters, he's a more warm and welcoming kind of speaker and politician. So he ends up getting all of the pain, but none of the gain from both ends of these.
That's a very good point, which is that you have to pick one. You can either play the inside game or you can be the outside revolutionary. Not saying Joe Biden is my friend, but electing him as an existential threat to the working
and
class.
The establishment can never stop.
Okay. Well, we'll see. We'll see if he brings it tonight at Fox News. We'll be watching it for all of you and bringing you some highlights tomorrow. We'll have more Rising for you right after this.